Mike, we got this piece from the Wall Street Journal that we wanted to dig into more. Is OpenAI becoming too big to fail? I made the quote last segment. They're too small to be too big to fail, but...
Let's talk about the context of too big to fail in the first place. And the main context we all have is the banks. Why were they too big to fail? It wasn't because they were integral to the stock market. They were, but that was not the crux of the issue. The crux of the issue was that without America's largest lending institutions, one, there would be a massive loss of deposits on the consumer side of things, and there would be no real ability to, I guess, fund anything that happens in the United States. So from a real structural part of the economy, they were deemed too big to fail. Am I missing some key components there? To me, it had everything to do with customer deposits and lending facilities.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's basically, hey, if the credit system of the United States dries up and it's facilitated by these banks, then you can't let them fail.
Okay.
And we don't.
Right. So how on earth would that apply to, I guess, forget about that. What would be the ramifications today of OpenAI coming out and saying, we don't have funding to continue, we are declaring bankruptcy and canceling all outstanding contracts?
So if OpenAI, let's say
it's an
right
interesting
now,
hypothetical.
If OpenAI today said, you know what, we're not going to make it, like we can't get financing to continue operations, like we're going to have to close up shop. I mean, first of all, you're not going to get it just out of nowhere, but if it happened today, S&P right now is at 68.45. S&P's back to 5,000 by end of day.
It'd be a massive, well, we'd hit circuit breakers before it happened, but yeah.
S&P's down 20% in one day.
Yeah.
Because, quite literally, you're going to end up shaving probably a third of the value off of your big tech companies. Mm-hmm. And with that, I mean, again, just like you look at the math and do it out, and you're like, okay, that's like 15, 16% for the S&P on its own, and everything else getting dragged 5, 6% along with it, wouldn't be surprised. Because here's the thing. If an OpenAI announcement can be enough to rally Amazon by 5%,
it can certainly be enough.
The revocation of said announcement has to be able to drop the stock by 5%. Otherwise, quite honestly, then we're just not really playing with real numbers.
And so, therefore, yes, you have all sorts of funds and institutions going belly up that are betting on this thing in one direction or another. But it gets me back to a question, which, does that mean that the government steps in to support it? I don't think so. It means that the stock market loses a tremendous amount of value. But is it too big to fail? I don't deem it a national security risk if it fails. I don't believe that funding for people's home purchases and bank accounts would just disappear overnight. 401ks would take a massive hit. Pensions funds would take a massive hit. Insurance companies might take a massive hit. But I don't know that you would go after the company at the source of all of it.
Here's the case for doing it. And I'm not saying that I'm in favor of this or not, but in an economy that's based on consumer spending, where wage growth has been not great, you could make a case that if you saw a bear market in that situation, consumer spending probably gets hit pretty hard and the U.S. economy goes into recession. Does that mean that you bail them out? No, but I could see the case being made that, well, if we don't support this, it's going to be really bad stuff for the economy, and I think that that's a crappy argument. Because ultimately, look, you could pay every single American $1,000 a day to go and dig holes. And then you could pay him $1,000 a day next week to go and fill all those holes in. That doesn't mean that you've built anything productive. And throwing bad money after good is malinvestment and not something that represents any kind of meaningful long-term improvement in living standards. And so, yeah, OpenAI is trying to build itself into that. I really hope it doesn't work.